She braced for death, but he shattered the stars with his choice. The stars above Earth were quiet, but the silence was heavy. From the bridge of the Stellar Accord command ship, Commander Lyra Vex watched the blue planet spin below. It looked peaceful, too peaceful for a world that was about to die. Lyra stood tall, her silver uniform smooth and perfect. Her species valued control, order, and logic. Emotion was considered a flaw. Mercy was considered a mistake. Earth had failed the trial. Around her, Accord officials floated in their stations, their eyes fixed on glowing screens filled with numbers, signals, and cold judgments. To them, Earth was not a home. It was a problem. Humanity has been measured, the High Arbiter said, his voice calm and sharp. They are unstable, emotional, unpredictable. Lyra had heard these words many times before. She had spoken them herself in other trials over other worlds. Those worlds were gone now, turned to dust, memory erased. Yet this time something felt different. A signal blinked on her console. The human representative had arrived. "Bring him in," the Arbiter ordered. A single human appeared on the central display. He was tall, wearing a simple dark uniform. His hair was touched with gray, his face lined by years of stress and responsibility. His eyes, however, were steady. This was Captain Elias Rourke, the chosen voice of humanity. Lyra studied him closely. Humans were physically weak compared to many species in the Accord. No claws, no armor, no natural weapons, and yet they had spread faster than expected. They built quickly, learned quickly, fought fiercely. That was why the Accord feared them. "Captain Rourke," the Arbiter said, "your species stands accused of emotional instability and potential galactic threat. The judgment has been made." Elias nodded once. He did not shout, he did not beg. Lyra felt a small, strange tension in her chest. Humans usually reacted strongly at this stage. Fear, anger, desperation. This one did not. "You may speak," the Arbiter continued, briefly. Elias took a slow breath. "I won't argue your data," he said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "Humans are emotional. We feel fear, love, anger, hope." The Accord members shifted slightly. Emotion openly admitted was rare. "But emotion is not chaos," Elias continued. "It is choice." Lyra tilted her head. Choice was an inefficient concept. Logic produced better outcomes. "We ask for time," Elias said. "Not to prepare weapons, not to escape, just time." The Arbiter's eyes narrowed. "For what purpose?" "So our people can face the end together," Elias answered. Silence filled the bridge. Lyra felt it again, that tension. Why would a leader waste time on something so useless? If death was certain, time should be spent resisting or fleeing. The Arbiter gave a short, sharp signal. "Request denied. Initiate planetary cleansing." Red lights flared across the bridge. Lyra's console lit up with attack confirmations. Massive energy arrays began charging. The weapons of the Accord were precise, final, and unstoppable. Below, Earth's defense systems activated, but only partially. They tracked the Accord ships, locked targets, prepared to fire. Prepared but did not fire. Lyra frowned. "Human defenses are not engaging," she reported. The Arbiter watched the readings. "They will," he said. "They always do." On the display, Elias remained. "Captain Rourke," Lyra said, breaking protocol, "your defenses are ready. Why do you hesitate?" Elias looked directly at her image. Somehow it felt like he was looking at her, not the screen. "Because firing first would prove you right," he said. Lyra stiffened. "You will be destroyed." "Yes," Elias replied, "but how we face destruction matters." Behind him, faint images appeared: cities, shelters, evacuation zones, humans moving together, not panicking, helping each other, soldiers carrying children, medics refusing to leave the wounded. Lyra had overseen thousands of executions. She had never seen a species behave like this at the end. "Stand down all planetary weapons," Elias ordered. Lyra's breath caught. Across Earth, defense platforms powered down. The Accord bridge erupted in confusion. "They are surrendering," an officer said. No, the Arbiter replied slowly. They are accepting judgment. The weapons reached full charge. Lyra felt something crack inside her comm. Arbiter, she said carefully, this response does not match threat models. Emotion clouds your assessment, the Arbiter snapped. Fire. The order echoed through the ship. Lyra watched the final countdown begin. Seconds remained. She braced herself. She had done this before. She told herself this was necessary. That order must be preserved. But her eyes stayed on the human. Elias closed his eyes. Then everything changed. A new signal screamed across every system. Energy levels spiked far beyond Earth's known technology. Source detected, an officer shouted. Origin, deep space. Lyra's console flashed warning after warning. Space itself twisted, light bending in impossible ways. What is happening? The Arbiter demanded. Elias opened his eyes. Choice, he said softly. Far from Earth, hidden beyond scanners, a human-built structure activated. It was not a weapon aimed at ships or planets. It was aimed at the stars. A controlled collapse surged through a major star corridor, a vast highway of faster-than-light travel used by the Accord for centuries. Space fractured. Entire lanes of interstellar travel folded in on themselves, burning out in silent explosions of light. Accord ships screamed as navigation systems failed. Some vanished instantly, lost in the collapse. The attack arrays shut down automatically to prevent self-destruction. Emergency stop, Lyra shouted. Too late. The corridor was gone. Earth remained untouched. Human space, however, was now sealed off, isolated behind a wall of shattered stars. The bridge fell silent. The Arbiter stared at the readings in disbelief. They destroyed access. Yes, Lyra whispered. Elias looked tired now, older. We didn't attack you, he said. We removed ourselves. You have trapped your own species, the Arbiter said. Cut off from the galaxy. Elias nodded. To save others from a war they didn't choose. Lyra felt something she had no word for. It wasn't fear. It wasn't logic. It was awe. The Accord had expected screams, resistance, desperate violence. Instead, humanity had chosen sacrifice. The stars outside burned strangely, broken and beautiful. And for the first time in her long service, Commander Lyra Vex wondered if the Accord had made a terrible mistake. The galaxy did not recover from the shock quickly. For the first time in recorded history, the Stellar Accord had been stopped, not by force, not by defeat, but by removal. Humanity had vanished behind shattered star corridors, leaving silence where war was expected. Inside the Accord command ship, confusion ruled. Commander Lyra Vex stood frozen at her station, her eyes fixed on the broken maps of space. The glowing lines that once marked stable travel routes were gone. In their place were warning symbols and empty darkness. They sacrificed their own future, one officer said quietly. No trade, no allies, no escape. The High Arbiter turned slowly. No species would choose isolation. Survival demands expansion. Lyra did not answer. Her thoughts were still on Captain Elias Rourke's face at the moment he gave the order, not defiant, not angry, resolved. That was not weakness, that was certainty. Recalculate threat level, the Arbiter ordered. Humanity is now contained. Contained. The word felt wrong to Lyra. Humans were not trapped. They had chosen their cage. The Accord fleet withdrew from the ruined corridor. Damaged ships limped back to safer regions of space. News of the event spread fast. Across hundreds of systems, leaders and scholars argued. Some called humanity foolish. Others called them terrifying. Because if humans were willing to cut themselves off to protect others, what else would they be willing to do? Behind the shattered stars, Earth changed. Humanity felt the loss immediately. Trade routes went silent. Alien signals vanished. Long-range explorers never returned. The galaxy had become unreachable. Panic came, but it did not last. Captain Elias Rourke stood before the United Earth Council, his uniform worn, his voice tired. "We are alone," he said simply. "That was the price." The room was silent. A council member finally spoke. "And if they come back, if they find another way," Elias nodded. "They might, so we prepare not to fight the galaxy but to protect each other." Across human space, priorities shifted. War fleets were dismantled and rebuilt into defense networks. Research stations turned inward, studying new forms of travel not dependent on star corridors. Colonies shared resources instead of competing. Humanity stopped trying to grow outward. They grew deeper. Children were taught not just history, but the reason behind the choice. Not as a story of loss, but of responsibility. "We stayed," teachers said, "so others wouldn't burn." And slowly humans adapted. Decades passed. Commander Lyra Vex still served the Accord, but something inside her had changed. She requested access to archived human data, officially for threat analysis. Unofficially, she wanted to understand them. She watched recordings of Earth before isolation. Music, art, ordinary people laughing, crying, building lives in a dangerous universe. Humans knew fear better than most species. They lived short lives. Their bodies were fragile. Their world was harsh. And yet they still chose sacrifice. "Emotion does not weaken them," Lyra whispered to herself one night. "It strengthens them." She was careful. The Accord punished doubt, but she began to notice others who felt the same. Quiet questions, delayed responses, hesitation during votes. The Accord's unity was cracking. Then the reports began. Entire star systems were going dark at the edge of known space, not destroyed. Consumed. Sensors showed impossible readings, energy disappearing, stars dimming like dying embers. The threat did not communicate, it did not negotiate, it advanced. Accord fleets engaged and failed. Their weapons passed through the dark mass with little effect. Logic-based strategies predicted outcomes that never happened. Perfect calculations meant nothing against something that did not follow rules. Panic spread faster than order. Lyra attended emergency council sessions where fear was carefully hidden behind calm voices. "This is not a war," one scientist said. "It is extinction." Someone spoke the word no one wanted to say. "Humanity." The chamber went silent. "They are isolated," the arbiter said sharply. "They cannot be reached." Lyra stood. "There may be another way," she said. Every eye turned to her. She explained what she had studied. Human adaptability, their creativity under pressure, their strange ability to turn loss into strength. "They faced annihilation and chose restraint," Lyra said. "That mindset may be what we need." The arbiter's gaze was cold. "You suggest we beg help from a species we condemned." "I suggest we survive," Lyra replied. Behind the shattered corridors, humanity was already watching. Human sensors picked up faint echoes, space bending, energy vanishing. The same signs the Accord feared. Elias Rourke was old now. His hair was white. His hands trembled slightly, but his eyes were sharp. "They're here," he said. Human scientists confirmed it. Something ancient, something vast. Humanity faced a choice again. Some argued for staying hidden. "We chose isolation. Let the galaxy face its own mistakes." Others shook their heads. "If we can help, we must." Elias listened. Then he spoke. "We didn't break the stars to save ourselves," he said. "We did it to save others." That reason hasn't changed. Humanity prepared. New ships emerged, sleek, powerful, built for endurance rather than conquest. Weapons were redesigned not to destroy worlds but to protect them. Entire crews trained to evacuate alien civilians. They did not know if the galaxy would accept them. They went anyway. Commander Lyra stood aboard a damaged Accord station when alarms sounded again. "Multiple contacts," an officer shouted. "Emerging from collapsed regions." Lyra's heart pounded. Impossible trajectories appeared on the screens. Ships moving through space that should not exist. Human ships. They were different now. Stronger, smarter, marked with symbols of unity rather than dominance. A transmission came through, a familiar voice. "This is Captain Elias Rourke of Earth," it said. "We heard you might need help." Lyra closed her eyes. Against all logic, humanity had returned, not for revenge, not for control, but because they chose to. As the dark threat advanced and human ships moved to intercept, the galaxy held its breath. The species that had once braced for death now stood between the stars and the end. And Commander Lyra Vex knew, with absolute certainty, that the galaxy would never be the same again. The first battle against the dark threat did not look like a battle at all. Human ships did not rush forward firing weapons. They spread out instead, forming wide defensive lines around Accord worlds. Energy shields flared to life, brighter and stronger than anything the Accord had built before. Commander Lyra Vex watched from the command deck of an Accord cruiser. Her hands were steady, but her thoughts were not. The dark mass moved like a living shadow. Stars dimmed as it passed. Space bent around it as if reality itself feared to touch it. "Human vessels are holding position," an officer reported. "They are waiting." Waiting was not a standard military tactic. Then the dark threat struck. It pushed forward not with explosions or noise but with pressure. Shields flickered. Systems screamed warnings. Several Accord ships lost power instantly, drifting helplessly. Human ships moved. They did not fire at the dark mass. Instead, they projected massive energy fields that redirected space itself. The pressure shifted. The dark threat slowed. For the first time, it reacted. "It's responding," Lyra whispered. "It feels resistance." Captain Elias Rourke, now an old man supported by advanced medical systems, stood on the bridge of the lead human ship. His voice came through the shared channel, calm and clear. "Hold the line," he said. "No one breaks formation." A younger officer hesitated. "Sir, some ships are taking heavy strain." "I know," Elias replied. "That's why we share the load." Human ships linked their systems together. Power flowed from stronger vessels to weaker ones. When one shield began to fail, others reinforced it. The Accord had never done this. Their ships were independent, perfectly efficient, perfectly alone. The dark threat pushed harder. Several human ships suffered damage. Hulls cracked, systems overloaded, yet none retreated. "Why don't they pull back?" an Accord officer asked. Lyra answered quietly. "Because someone is behind them. Planets, cities, lives. Humanity did not fight to win. They fought so others could live. The battle lasted hours. In the end, the dark threat withdrew, not defeated but slowed, wounded, confused. It had never faced a defense that refused to break. Across Accord space, news spread fast. The humans stopped it. They didn't destroy it. They protected us. Fear turned into something unfamiliar, hope. After the battle, emergency councils were formed. Accord leaders demanded answers. "How did you predict its movements?" the Arbiter asked Elias during a joint meeting. Elias smiled faintly. "We didn't. We watched how it reacted." "That is inefficient," the Arbiter said. "Yes," Elias replied, "but it works." Lyra stood nearby, observing. She noticed how Elias spoke not as a ruler but as a caretaker. He never claimed credit. He always used "we." The dark threat returned weeks later, stronger than before. This time it split itself, attacking multiple systems at once. The Accord panicked. Humanity adapted. Human fleets divided, coordinating across impossible distances. Human commanders made decisions without waiting for approval. They trusted each other. Some attacks succeeded, some failed. When a human ship was lost, the crew's final act was always the same. They redirected power to save others. Lyra witnessed one such moment through live feeds. A damaged human ship drifted near a civilian station. Its captain knew escape was impossible. Instead of fleeing, the ship turned and absorbed the full force of the dark mass, buying time for evacuation. The feed cut out. Silence filled the command deck. Lyra felt something tighten in her chest. "Why do they keep doing this?" an officer asked, voice shaking. Lyra answered honestly, "Because they believe every life matters." As battles continued, something changed inside the Accord. Orders were questioned. Rigid protocols were ignored. Officers began acting on instinct. They began acting like humans, the Arbiter noticed. "This chaos is unacceptable," he declared during a council session. "We must regain control." Lyra stood. "With respect," she said, "control is not saving us. Cooperation is." The chamber erupted. "You sound like one of them," the Arbiter snapped. Lyra did not deny it. "Perhaps that is why we are still alive," she replied. For the first time, many Accord members agreed with her. The Stellar Accord, built on cold logic, was learning something dangerous: empathy. Deep within the dark threat, something shifted. Human scientists studied its patterns and discovered a truth no one expected. "It's not a weapon," a researcher reported. "It's a survival mechanism. It consumes energy to exist." "It's starving," Elias said softly. The revelation changed everything. Humanity adjusted their strategy again. Instead of resisting the dark threat, they began guiding it, redirecting it toward empty regions of space, feeding it controlled energy bursts to keep it from consuming stars. It was risky, dangerous, but it reduced destruction. The Accord could not believe it. "They are caring for the enemy," the Arbiter said in disbelief. Elias looked at him through the screen. "We're preventing more death, that's all." Lyra realized then that humanity was not just fighting a threat. They were redefining what strength meant. Years passed. The dark threat was contained, weakened, no longer an unstoppable force. Entire systems were saved. Humanity paid a heavy price. Ships lost, lives gone, resources strained. Yet they did not regret their choice. Across the galaxy, statues were built, not of warriors but of human crews standing together, holding lines, carrying strangers to safety. Commander Lyra Vex made her final decision. She resigned from the Stellar Accord, publicly. She joined the human-led coalition forming across species lines, a new alliance based not on fear but shared responsibility. When asked why, she answered simply, "They taught me that survival without meaning is empty." As the dark threat finally began to fade, retreating into deep space, the galaxy stood changed. Humanity had not conquered it. They had held it together. And as the stars slowly grew bright again, one truth echoed across every world: humanity refused to break. And because of that, neither did the galaxy. The final phase did not begin with a battle. It began with silence. Across the galaxy, sensors showed the dark threat slowing. Its movements were weaker now, less focused. The vast shadow that once swallowed stars drifted like a wounded creature, no longer expanding, no longer hunting. Humanity's strategy had worked. Commander Lyra Vex stood aboard the flagship of the new coalition, watching the data scroll past. Around her were officers from dozens of species, former enemies, former rivals, now working side by side. This alone would have been impossible before humans returned. "The dark mass is stabilizing," a scientist reported. "Energy levels are dropping to survivable ranges." Lyra let out a slow breath. Then this may truly be the end. Not victory, not conquest, an end. Captain Elias Rourke sat quietly on the bridge of the human command ship Resolve. His body was weak now. Machines helped him breathe. His hands rested calmly on the armrests of his chair. He had lived long enough to see the consequences of one impossible choice. A young officer approached him. "Sir, the Coalition Council requests your presence. One last time." Elias smiled faintly. "All right. Let's not keep the galaxy waiting." His image appeared in the grand chamber where leaders from hundreds of worlds gathered. Some were powerful, some were small and fragile. All were alive because of humanity's choices. The chamber fell silent. Elias did not stand. He did not raise his voice. "We believe the dark threat can be guided beyond the galactic edge," he said. "Not destroyed, not imprisoned, simply moved." Murmurs spread. "The process will take years," Elias continued. "It will require patience, trust, and sacrifice. From all of us," an alien leader spoke. "And if it fails," Elias nodded, "then we face the consequences together." That word again, together. Lyra watched faces change across the chamber. Fear remained, but it no longer ruled them. The vote was taken, unanimous. The final operation began soon after. Human engineers led the effort, but they did not work alone. Accord technology, alien energy systems, and human creativity merged into something new. Massive guiding arrays were built near the edge of the galaxy. They did not attack the dark threat. They created paths, gentle pulls in space like currents in a river. The dark mass responded, slowly, carefully, as if it sensed intention. Entire fleets stood ready not to fight but to stabilize space if something went wrong. Millions watched from their worlds, holding their breath. Lyra stood at her station, hands trembling despite herself. "This feels wrong," an officer said quietly, "like guiding a storm." Lyra shook her head. "No, it feels like helping one pass." The dark threat reached the first guiding array. For a terrifying moment, energy spiked. Then it flowed. The shadow stretched, thinned, and moved along the path humanity had created. Cheers erupted across countless ships. The galaxy had survived. Days later, as systems slowly returned to normal, Captain Elias Rourke's condition worsened. Lyra visited him aboard the Resolve. The room was quiet, filled with soft lights and the hum of life support systems. "You did it," she said. Elias chuckled weakly. "No, we did." "You changed everything," Lyra replied. "The Accord, the galaxy, me." Elias turned his head slightly, meeting her eyes. "Then promise me something. Anything. Don't let us become what we fought," he said. "Strength without compassion is just another kind of darkness." Lyra placed her hand over her chest, a human gesture she had learned. "I promise." Elias closed his eyes, calm and unafraid. He passed quietly, surrounded not by enemies or fear, but by the future he helped create. The galaxy mourned. On worlds Elias had never seen, beings stood in silence. Flags were lowered, lights dimmed. Stories were told, not of a conqueror, but of a man who chose restraint when destruction was easier. Humanity did not hide his death. They shared it openly, honestly. He was human, they said, and he was not perfect. That made his choice matter more. In the months that followed, the Stellar Accord officially dissolved. In its place rose a new alliance, the Concord of Free Worlds. There was no single ruler, no execution fleets. Decisions were slow, messy, emotional. They worked. Commander Lyra Vex was elected as one of the first stewards, not because of her past rank but because she understood both worlds. On the day the charter was signed, she stood beneath a sky filled with stars that burned bright once more. She remembered the moment she had braced for Earth's destruction. She remembered how wrong she had been. Humanity returned to exploration, not as masters but as partners. They shared technology freely. They taught others how to adapt, how to rebuild after loss. And when asked why they had done any of it, why they shattered star corridors, why they sacrificed ships, why they saved even those who condemned them, the answer was always the same. Because we could choose. Years later, children across the galaxy learned about the moment everything changed. They learned about the human who stood before annihilation and chose something else. They learned that the stars were not shattered by weapons, but by a decision. Commander Lyra Vex often visited a quiet memorial near Earth's orbit. It was simple. No statues of power, just a single inscription translated into every known language. Strength is not what you destroy. It is what you refuse to let die. As she looked out at the vast, living galaxy, Lyra finally understood. Humanity had never been dangerous because of their weapons. They were dangerous because once they chose hope, they would protect it, no matter the cost.